right back, Charlie. Definitely.
You always use that active red flag defending. I think it's like you always use that active red flag defending. I think it's like you always use that active red flag defending. I think it's like
People deluded, I'm back again.
Come on, Ian. Come on. As Ian Wright just said there, people deluded, I'm back again. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and of course, good night to wherever you lot are placed in this earth, or better yet, this world. A big good morning to everyone whose team got 3 points. I know Arsenal did. I heard them boys in blue in London didn't, and I know Spurs defo didn't as well, but it's not easy. It's not easy when you got star boys. My guys are not getting clipped after 77 minutes. It's peak for the league. We're going to do what we need to do this season. You can see the early optimism, people. Again, smash the like button if you're on YouTube. If you're on other platforms, one love. Again, any talking points, questions, all of that sort of stuff. Feel no sort of way about getting them in. Appreciative to you lot tuned here and everyone else who's rocking with my content. And some of you may have seen a video come out on my YouTube channel earlier today, man. Kay, I hope you're doing well and safe. Let's kick off things a bit differently and get straight into it. I can't lie. I thought the browser didn't come up there. But let's see the current status with Arsenal's news, views, talking points, etc. A formal announcement for David Raya's deal is expected in the next 24 hours. And as you know, unfortunately, he wasn't able to complete his move in time to at least be on the bench against Nottingham Forest. But apparently it's a formality. Some rumours even say he was at the game at the Emirates against Nottingham Forest. Well, go on, Killy. You checking the league table this year, bro? I never look at the league table. You know, there's no point. We'll look in May. There's no point looking at it now. Again, we take every game as it comes. Again, how do you even look at a league table? I don't know. Is it online? Is there a website? I don't even understand the question. Are you checking the league table? As I always say, in many ways, winning the league is being better than you was yesterday. Let's just keep working very hard and see where we're at in May, really. You know, everyone's got 38 games, well, 37 now, unless you're United or Wolves. Let's see where we are at the end of it, really. We just need to keep fighting and fighting and fighting and battling and battling. But as you can see, yeah, Raya is expected to be announced within the next 24 hours. Quick overview, if you didn't know, again, he's set to join Arsenal for an initial loan fee of 3 million with an option to buy of 27 million quid, people. So yeah, he hasn't been registered in time for Nottingham Forest, but it seems like that could be done in the near future. Where Tierney's concerned, Fabrizio Romano, and it seems like the Tierney links are quite aggressive, better yet, in terms of departing. You know, say what you want about Tierney in the starting lineup and Mikel Arteta's system. He's a good player to have on the bench. Sometimes we've brought him on to impact the game going forward. Evidently, more so to kind of see out games. For Tierney, unfortunately, Timber's bad news for you. Zinchenko's bad news for you. Kieran Tomiyasu are bad news for you as well. I don't know where we're at now because we don't know how Timber's injury. We don't know the status on that currently. Of course, you know, Zinchenko, he stays ever fit, but he picks up these little 1 week, 2 week layoffs. So I do think I'd like to keep Tierney, but he deserves to play first team football. And when you look at players that could leave, obviously you've got Cedric, you've got Tavares, you've got Lokonga, Pepe. These guys, for one reason or another, are not necessarily attractive offers. Then you've got, on the other hand, you've got the Tierneys and Balogans that I'm sure if Arsenal had their way, they probably wouldn't want to sell them, but for one reason or not, they're going to keep it moving. Swap Balogun for Ferguson. You know, Balogun's probably only going to knock 20 million off Brighton's price for Ferguson. And, you know, again, in the near to distant future, we all know how the story goes. Brighton are going to sell Ferguson for a ridiculous amount of money to follow what they've got for Benjamin White, Cucurella, Bissouma. You know, handsome profits. Obviously, the poster boy right now is Caicedo. Apparently, he's having his second part of his medical and putting the finishing touches towards his move to Chelsea. Partey should be in midfield, not right back. I agree with you, but at the same time, Partey more or less was playing in midfield. What have you said here? Big up Forest. JK said, Forest fan, you outplayed us first half, dominated us massively, but we grew into the game second half, and I'll take a 2-1 loss at the Emirates every day of the week, considering we lost 5-0 there last season. I think if Cooper had his way, I think you lot were probably a bit too respectful of us in the first half. You were kind of taking it in the greatest of respect, like a championship game. You're trying to knock the balls into the channel, win the first and second balls, and take it from there. Probably, 11 men in your half, 10 men behind the ball. It got a bit crazy in the second half, and you're right, 2 inspired subs in the guy who scored, and obviously Alanga who came on. Again, for us, that tells us what we already know about Arsenal, and that we need to improve on the defensive transitions a tenfold, really, because I don't think we should have conceded. I think on another day, we probably should have created more chances, really, if I'm completely honest with you, and we should have killed the game in the first half for all of that possession. But if you give a team some sort of ambition that they can get something out of the game, they're going to keep going. Forest is a massive club. You're doing good things. Hopefully you stay up and have a better season than you did. One love for tuning in. Keeping up the theme with Arsenal news and Kieran Tierney, Romano has said, despite links with Newcastle earlier this summer, it was never something concrete or close from what I heard. I think they're looking more at centre-backs than at full-backs at this point. Real Sociedad have made contact for Tierney this week, but Arsenal want a permanent sale while Sociedad are only offering a loan. Keeping up the theme with that, people. Allegedly, Arsenal are playing hardball over Kieran Tierney. Newcastle could launch an official move to sign long-term target Tierney. Tierney would get first-team football, play Champions League football. Obviously, Newcastle is not that far from Scotland, where he's obviously from, so there's a lifestyle factor to consider. So we have to see. Apparently, it was understood Tierney was fit for the game, but was left out for tactical reasons, a bit like Gabriel, although Gabriel was on the bench. They also have been linked with Cucurella. Once again, Sociedad have been linked with Kieran Tierney, but they want to sign him on loan. Arsenal would rather sell him permanently, people. And apparently, we could be willing to sanction a loan deal if a significant fee is guaranteed in 12 months' time, and that would suit Newcastle. Celtic have also been linked with a return for Tierney, but I don't think they've got the money to get involved with that. Apparently, fresh contact on Kieran Tierney as Arsenal prepare for exit. Newcastle remain in the hunt for Arsenal fullback Tierney as the Magpies focus on handing Eddie Howe extra backing in the remainder of the transfer window. Chronicle Live understands there's been fresh contact on Tierney, although Newcastle's interest in the Scotland international has never really gone away this summer. The difficulty for Newcastle and other clubs, including Celtic, has been Arsenal's 30 million demand on the 26-year-old. Come on, Newcastle, you're spending the bag on Tonali, you've got Bruno Guimaraes, you got Isaac, but you're acting over 30 million for a Premier League proven player, for someone who is a outright starter at fullback. It's just the system's left him. Rightly so, if I'm Newcastle, whatever fee Arsenal are looking for, I'm saying, boy, I'm seeing a centre-back player ahead of him. I'm seeing a right-back player ahead of him. I'm seeing a midfielder in Zinchenko play ahead of him. I'm seeing Tomiyasu play ahead of him. What's going on there, Mikel Arteta? But nevertheless, Arsenal begin to seriously look for a potential exit plan for Tierney. Newcastle have been kept in the loop on the sale and loan options for the player. Newcastle United have held an interest in Tierney throughout 2023. Arsenal are willing to part with Tierney, but only at a price, and they know they're in a strong position. He's contracted until 2026. As the FA Cup winner has 3 years left on his current deal. Again, Eddie Howe said he would love one more the other day when he spoke, people. So we'll have to see exactly what happens with Kieran Tierney. Apparently, he's also drawn interest from Aston Villa, where Emre is, Sociedad and Celtic, where, just like Newcastle, Sociedad could offer him Champions League football, and it's a sunny escape for him and his family. Apparently, Newcastle opted against a move and Arsenal swooped for him back in 2019. So we'll have to see how this develops. But there's a lot of rumours. Bidding, getting fees agreed are completely different things. The Telegraph have said Arsenal are thought to be very keen to find a move for Tierney. They'd prefer to sell the player at this stage, but a compromise could be reached that would defer the fee for another 12 months, which would help Newcastle navigate their way through FFP concerns. Given the nature of the deal, it could be that it has to wait until closer to deadline day. Apologies for a sec, people. And as I said, with Timber's injury, or not knowing the status on his injury, I personally think we should potentially look to hold fire. We were slow to react to the pace of Alanga, should have locked down his wing. To be fair, I was very disappointed with that goal because it's from our corner, and again, I'm not expecting us to be a great defensive side overnight, but that was a theme of how we struggled last season. That's definitely been a theme of pre-season, all the games we played up until the Nottingham Forest game. Obviously we just kicked off the Premier League against Forest. If you consider Forest, the way Cole Palmer scored for Manchester City in the Community Shield, you look at the Monaco game, the goal they scored, let alone the chances. Manchester United, it had individual mistakes and problems on the transition as well, and also Barcelona. I mean, that is football, but we need to do better. Keep Tierney. We're already picking up injuries, and he's quite good. I'm with you with that, man. really. Only one will arrive, but Newcastle have been given reason to believe that both Tierney and Cucurella would like to make the move and are looking to progress talks. Both deals would include either an option or an obligation to buy the player next summer, and the club would be willing to cover the cost of his wages, which would be good for Arsenal. Personally, I would like an obligation because it means we get a confirmed fee next summer. But then again, if Tierney impresses at Newcastle, if he does go there, and maybe Arteta thinks, you know what, I shouldn't have let him go, he gets reintegrated, or maybe, you know, we can get an even higher fee, really. So it'd be interesting. Once again, Nicolas Pepe has been linked with a move away from the club, and it still remains to be seen where he goes, but he's been linked with Turkey once again. Allegedly, Besiktas agreed with Nicolas Pepe on everything. On Arsenal's side, the situation is also good, and a few procedures remain. The deal is expected to be completed as soon as possible. In relation to Timber, Arsenal are assessing Timber today after he was injured in their win over Nottingham Forest on Saturday, folks. Once again, you can see that. We've been linked with Barella. Whether you believe that is another thing, personally, I don't, but the dream is free. The hustle is sold separately, folks. So we'll have to see exactly what happens there. But for what it's worth, what's happened there? Arsenal have not given up on signing into midfielder Barella after the Premier League club received indications the Italian would be open to a move. We are told that Arsenal, who traditionally never initiate talks with a club over a player unless there's a general sense that they'd be willing to join, are weighing up another approach for Barella, and any conclusion of a deal would mean that Partey would likely be moved on. I mean, Partey, it doesn't seem like you're getting the move to Italy for one reason or another. You're not going to Saudi Arabia. Personally, I don't believe it. It's also our understanding that Inter wish to offer Barella fresh terms to his current deal that runs until 2026, but Inter have also acknowledged that they'll be forced to make a sell if they're unable to convince him. Do they really need to sell him now? Contracted until 2026. Edin Dzeko's gone, Skriniar's gone, Onana's gone. There's defo another key player that's gone. Barella's a key player for them. Do you really want to keep sanctioning these exits, people? I mean, that's probably where you saw the swap deal links, because they wanted Balogun allegedly, and we've had an interest in Barella. Whether we want to buy him or bid, or if he's in the plans, is a completely different thing. Barella has always privately maintained he would rather stay at Inter, his boyhood club, and has in the past rejected a notion of a move away from San Siro. So once again, they said Arsenal have been given an indication, or we don't move for players unless there's an indication they want to make a move. But in the next couple of paragraphs, that he wants to stay. So I don't really believe this, if I'm completely honest with you. Newcastle have made a move for him earlier in the market. It didn't work out. They went and got another Italian midfielder in Tonali. Inter have also sold Brozovic. So would it make sense to let my man go? Would love Barella, but it's for what it is. I can't see Balogun signing for Spurs. And if they were to buy him, they've got to pay even more. But allegedly, Spurs are interested in shock move for Balogun, with Lukaku and Taremi options lined up to replace Harry Kane. I just think this is a case of creative journalism, if I'm completely honest with you. West Ham want Kudus with Paqueta if he leaves for City. Good signing for West Ham, really. Spurs are reportedly interested in a shock move to sign Balogun. It's not going to happen, is it? But for what it's worth, early 20s, scored 22 goals last season. Apparently, we want 50 million. I don't think we're going to get 50 million. If Spurs want him, they need to be spending 50 million plus. And Balogun needs to be prepared for a world of hate, regardless of his current stature in the game. I don't believe it. I don't know if you lot do. But there you have that. And once again, this report said Balogun might not actually be allowed to leave the club in relation to Jesus' injury, people. A well-placed source has told Football Insider that Balogun would be open to sealing a move to the London Stadium. And it's also linked to West Ham, as he's keen to put down roots at a permanent home. It's believed holding down a regular starting berth in the Premier League is a dream for the young forward. We'll have to see. As well as West Ham, Inter are among the top European sides to be heavily linked with a potential move for the former Middlesbrough loanee. So we'll have to see. He's contracted until 2025. Sooner rather than later, a decision will have to be made. So we'll have to see in that regard. One ex-Haaland striker, apparently Akpom is set to sign for Ajax, people, which tells you should be patient with strikers. We was once linked with PSV Sangare. Apparently PSG, Liverpool and Bayern are all interested in him, and Nottingham Forest have actually had a bid rejected for him, people. As we know, Caicedo, former Arsenal man Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain has moved to Turkey and signed for Besiktas. Crazy scenes there, really. Kepa's gone Real Madrid. Liverpool have reached terms with Southampton for Lavia, a player we was once linked with, and it seems like he has a decision to make. Does he choose Chelsea or does he choose Liverpool? So we'll have to see in that regard. As we all know, Caicedo is, seems set to sign for Chelsea. They've agreed 115 million fee with Brighton, and apparently there's a 20% sell-on clause. Tony Bloom has played a blinder there. Absolute blinder there, if I'm completely honest. Really. Big up DG. Rice and Havertz very underwhelming considering they cost upwards of 160 million. I wouldn't say Rice is underwhelming, but at this moment in time, I would say Havertz is, because I don't think anyone would have had him on the list to, be signed in midfield and try help us improve. Inter sold Lukaku for 95 million, so they're fairly minted really, so they don't really need to get rid of people. DG just joined your fantasy team, get ready to lose, bro. K, you're not going to get brownie points for beating me in the FPL. I'm like 200 and something, so you got to focus on the big dogs. I'm just trying to stay in the division at this moment in time. I don't know what you're on. Also, don't sell to a rival. We don't need to help Newcastle. I agree. And if we are going to sell to Newcastle, put yourselves on the other foot. If we was trying to buy Tierney from Newcastle, they're not going to make it easy for us. So let's get a decent fee for Tierney. I don't know if he's going to push Arteta to depart the club, but what we do know is he's obviously a good player. He's contracted until 2026. For someone, when you think of Tierney, you do think of injuries. He's been ever kind of fit in the last 18 months or so by his own standards. So it is what it is in that regards. Rice was decent. I'm happy with Rice's signing. Should we see what Mikel Arteta has had to say about, obviously, our game against Nottingham Forest? He said, welcome to the Premier League. I think that's the highlight. We were super dominant. We deserved to win the game. There's no question that we deserved to win the game. But when you're 2-0 up, you have some chances to kill the game. We didn't. And then we gave a very sloppy one away after being there and having the corner and having a chance on the corner. Straight away from 2 passes, you can see the goal. When that happens in the league, it's game on. Every team has the resources, the quality to create issues, and it was more about the feeling of what happened, because the reality is we didn't concede anything. Running down the clock in this league, that's a very dangerous thing to do, but overall I'm very happy. Again, our own lack of game management, our own naiveties with closing out games and managing the transitions, that's what's going to stop Arsenal from winning a title or a trophy, or not really. There's no point waffling about what we're good at. We're a good, decent defensive team, but we're not a great one. And I'm not trying to get at us. I think we've improved defensively, but we need to go up a tenfold, really. We need to crave clean sheets. When you speak about Mikel Arteta's Arsenal, or Arsenal at this moment in time, you speak of the Sakas, the Martinellis, the intricacies that Mikel Arteta deploys in terms of his system, the great football we play, the fantastic atmosphere. You don't really mention defensive aspects of the game. And we need to be able to add that to our game if we want to go to where we want to go to, because to a degree, winning this league is not always how you are at your best. When we're at our best, I don't think there's a team in the division, whether we beat them or not, it's another game, but we can give them a game and potentially win. It's when things go wrong. So these are the things we have to deal with. Obviously, Timber's injury makes everyone a bit nervous. As I always say, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. No clue on the status of his injury, but Arteta did say in the aftermath of the game, no, the officials, the doctors, they looked at him. They were happy to continue him as well. But straight away in the second half, the first action, he made a movement and it was a bit funny. So we took him out straight away. And now we have to assess to see what he has. On Saka's stunning goal. From that distance against Matt Turner, is not very easy to score, but it was an incredible finish. Not surprised Saka does that all the time. On whether it was tactical to play Partey at right back and have Gabriel on the bench. We expected a game that actually happened, and we needed someone else there in midfield to do what we have to do best and have more fluidity and occupy certain spaces in relation to how they were defending. I think it worked really well. We got the 3 points, so it did. On the momentum shift in the second half, because we encouraged Nottingham Forest. We encouraged them at 2-1. There's a bit of hope. You saw Cooper, he gambled. He said, you know what? There's no difference between losing 2-0 or 3-0. We do have that chink in our armor, in that even though we performed well against Manchester City and won the week before, that last 15 minutes when Cole Palmer scored is probably our weakest moment, really. We need to chase the illusion of being perfect over 90 minutes. But yeah, man, really. And on another day, Forest, even though we were the dominant side, we deserved to win and all of that jazz. On another day, if Cooper's probably sitting there and saying, maybe if we was a bit more on the front foot in the first half, maybe if Brennan Johnson scored, they might have been better. To be fair with you, we didn't really create that much, if I'm completely honest with you, to our standards. Again, Morgan Gibbs-White got caught by Saliba for Saka's great strike. Again, a corner move died. Martinelli kept it alive. Poor defending from Nottingham Forest. Saw Eddie Nketiah unmarked. He pulled it in the back of the net. I'm not complaining. We walk away with what we need to walk away with, but we can always perform better. The season's just started. I'm not expecting us to be at full gear, but it's all about getting towards that. Arteta then said it's going to be very difficult to dominate games for 100 minutes, but it is how we allow them to get some grip of the game, because they create anything. But at the end of the action, the game changes and momentum changes and shift immediately after that goal. That is not the moment to change it. You cannot change it. Now you have to be so good at dealing with that situation and running down the clock and earning the points. The team have done that really well, but we have to be more ruthless and more critical of ourselves to be pushy and kill games. can't disagree with what Arteta has said there, especially in the last sentence. On whether his tactics are designed to identify solutions to the problems from last season, I mean, if they wasn't, there'd be serious issues, really. That's my job, to create bigger problems for the opponent and the ones that they are creating for us, and to play the best possible way to earn the win, to earn the two what? The best possible way to win the game and have the highest probability to win the game. I mean, they need to proofread this before they post it. In order to do what we have to do to pick up the right players every week, not to start only, but as well to finish. And the players that come in the final part of the game, they really push us as well to earn the right to win. On whether Saka has the makings to be one of the best players in the league in Europe, he already is, really. But yeah, what I ask him and all the players is to be the best version of themselves every single day. That's the only thing they can do. Then how good that version is very hard to tell with any player, because we don't know. We don't know how the Bakayl 2 years ago or today or 2 years time will be, and the same applies to the rest. They are so eager to do that every single day, and when that happens, they will evolve. For sure, they will be better and they will compete better and they will understand how to get better and be more efficient to make decisions. On whether Martinelli's performance today can be what we expect of him this season. Careful, some people wanted him dropped. The key thing is, listen, I think Trossard deserves to play. I wish we could play 12 players, but you need a squad. Last week, Martinelli was poor. Now he's on fire. We need a squad. We need options. Some days, guys are not going to... 1 week, you're going to be the protagonist. Then you're going to be underwhelming and so on and so forth. That's Gabby. He needs to be alive. He needs to be energetic. He needs to take chances and go for it. Something I really liked today that I didn't like too much 2 weeks ago was that he was going to give the ball away and he tracked back, because this was the defining moment. When Gabby is doing that backwards and then forwards, he's one of the best players and one of the most dangerous today when he's playing a different rhythm now. On how pleased the boss was to see Eddie get off the mark today. Delighted for him because he's a role model. He's a player that was so disappointed with the absence of Jesus and not to play a final. What he did when he came on the field in that final was that he changed the game. That's number one. And the second one, the way he trained this week, he was telling me, Gaffer, if I don't play, you are blind. A lot of players come and say, oh, why am I not playing? You have to try and explain. Others tell you reasons why they deserve to play. This is exactly what Eddie does. This is exactly what he did. And he goes onto that pitch and he performs as well. It's a clear example and a very good example for everyone. I mean, I think Balogun could learn from that, not just talking on social media, but nonetheless, he then went on to say, especially in the second half, when we are 2-0 up and the rhythm needs to be maintained, we spoke that we wanted a very high rhythm today because we knew the pitch was going to get dry and it was really hot and it was going to be slower. Everything that is going to be in a low block with the Christmas tree formation and slow play benefits the opponent. We need to stay away from those games. I think that's very interesting because looking at being 2-0 up, was we not 2-0 up at Anfield? And in many ways, they were fortunate to get a point. We were definitely fortunate not to lose everything. So there's always something to learn in these games, in my opinion, really, if I'm completely honest with you. On the issue supporters had getting into the stadium, obviously Arteta is not going to be happy with that. We're not going to waffle with that. You know, he's not going to be happy. Who wants that to be the case? If you haven't smashed the like button, make sure you have people as well. So yeah, man, that seems to be Mikel Arteta's press conference so far. He then said on how impressed the boss has been with Rice's leadership. And it's nice to see Rice. Every game he plays, he's showing a bit more personality and he's starting to show more in the opponent's field. Probably unlucky not to score. In fact, one of the volleys was terrible, but it's coming, Declan Rice. Remember, you heard it here. Declan Rice scored in North London Derby this season. He's very natural. As you've seen today, I don't know if it was after 2 minutes or after 10, the way he's moving, the way he's coaching, the way he has integrated into that dressing room. I think he's enjoying the position as well. He probably should have scored 2 goals today, so more of the same. He's not thinking, he's just acting, and I'm really pleased with what he's done. I mean, 2 of your summer signings, it was Rice with a brace, potentially, the gaffer said this week. Kai Havertz on another day probably should have scored against Manchester City in the cup. Saliba's spoken and he said it was a really good start to the season with a win. It's never easy to win the first game in the league and we have done a good game. Unfortunately, we conceded a goal in the last 10 minutes, game management, but it's okay. We learn and we'll improve for the next game. We didn't improve against City or Forest in that regard, so old habits kind of die hard. It gives us confidence to start the season well. We know that we started last season well as well, so we want to keep going to win the second, third and fourth game. We need 9 points in August. I'm not going to lie. With the greatest of respect to Crystal Palace, which Gabriel needs to be back in for, and obviously Fulham, we need 9 points. September, we've got Man United. And after that Man United game, forgive me, is an international break. You don't want to go into the break with an L. It leaves a sour taste in your mouth. So, yeah. He then said, I didn't realize immediately that it was me that I made the assist. It was after, and I was happy to give the assist to Bakayl. That's good. It shows that everyone can assist and score. I mean, last season, Saliba, you scored a potential goal of the season strike with your left peg away from home. So we want to see more of that. You know, Mudryk can't shoot for anything, really, could he? Anyways, he said, I'm really, really happy. I'm not 100% at the moment, but I give everything to come back because it's been a long time. I didn't play as I was injured, and I'm so happy to be with the team, the staff, and have really helped me to get better and get back to my best. It's always better to play in front of our supporters. You don't feel pressure. You don't feel any pain. It's good. Can't disagree with what he said there. Statistically, Eddie Nketiah, for whatever you say about the man, as I keep saying, he's disrespected unnecessarily, has 14 goals in his last 16 starts at the Emirates Stadium, really. Gabriel was dropped prior to obviously him being dropped against Forest. He actually started 73 consecutive Premier League games. So it shows Arteta in the last 2 weeks. To be fair, Arteta shown he can gamble. He gambled towards the end of the City game where we was chasing it. He obviously gambled with the lineup with Havertz up front. Not that that's anything new. We've seen him play up front against Chelsea, and a lot of people had a lot to say about who was playing right back in Thomas Partey and Gabriel not starting, etc., etc. Saka had a great game against Forest. Most final third passes, most crosses, most touches in the up box, most tackles, most shots. And as I said, I think he was very good defensively. Most chances created, and he scored a peach of a goal. Declan Rice had 102 touches, a 92% pass accuracy, 10 final third entries, 6 duels won, 1 possession 5 times, 4 tackles, 3 shots on target, no goals though. But what happened? 2,001 interceptions. Done what he needed to do. Martinelli in the first half against Forest, you know, had 100% final third pass accuracy, 1 possession the most times, won the most duels, and created the most chances, and obviously got a wonderful assist. No player has been directly involved in more home goals in the Premier League this year, 2023. Den Saka with 4 assists and 8 goals. What a star boy. We have people. What link is this? Doesn't seem to be opening. Apologies on that. The Evening Standard has spoken on injuries, people. It hasn't shedded any light on Timber, just says Arsenal are assessing to determine the extent of the injury, people, and we've kind of gone over Mikel Arteta's comments. Jesus is still a few weeks away. We hope he could at least be back for United. Zinchenko, again, he's back in training, but he hasn't been playing. Apparently, he's expected to be back for Crystal Palace. Balogun's been injured, but he's clearly not in the plan, so it's a myth. El Nene doesn't seem to be any closer to being fit either, people. Shay Given's not happy with us signing David Raya, and I'm sure Ramsdale isn't as well, but make sure that he sits on the bench. For what it's worth, Given said, I have a look at that and say you're signing a problem. Ramsdale, for me, was one of the best players last year. He made some big performances and really settled in that position. He dropped a lot of clangers, but he's the reason we beat Leeds. He's actually the reason we didn't throw it away against Liverpool. But we don't owe Ramsdale nothing. If he wants to stay in the team, stay in the team. I feel for Ramsdale. I really do. You know, again, it's upsetting. You know, you and Benjamin White have been playing week in, week out. You've kind of seen Raya and Timber come in. I know Timber's been playing left back, but we're not here to make friends. We're here to win stuff. We're not here, you know, if you want a game, go somewhere else or sign up for a Sunday league team. The best players go out there. If you was a part of the strongest 11 at this moment in time or last season, make sure you hold on to your spot. Same way, if you sign for the club, go and take your spot. I don't think he's wrong for what he's saying, Shay Given. Now, if you're bringing in Raya, who's number 1 in his own right, then you're causing yourself a problem. There will be a time, I believe, between Ramsdale and Raya. If they're here for like 3 years, either it needs to be made clear somebody's the number 1 and the number 2, or we'll have to do what we had with Leno and Martinez, what we saw with Leno and Cech, what we saw with Ramsdale and Leno. I don't think Raya would leave Brentford, who's the number 1, at Brentford to be number 2 at Arsenal or any club. If I was in that position, I wouldn't go to any club as a number 2, no chance. So I don't understand why Arteta wants to bring him in, because he wants more competition, and respectfully to Brentford, there's levels. If you have to take it, no matter what position you play in. If you're playing week in, week out at one club, if you're Jack Grealish at Villa, you're the big fish in a small pond. You sign for City, you need to make sure you hold on to a spot. There's no point being a good player. And in many ways, you being a good player means you're average, because everybody's good now. The goalie coach used to be at Brentford, so he's bringing in Raya for a reason. He likes him. Maybe he's giving him some assurances he's going to be number 1, but I wouldn't be happy if I was Ramsdale, which is true. You can't really have 2 first-choice keepers, but yeah, man, who knows? Maybe Matt Turner forced the boat out and wanted to keep it moving, so Arsenal were a bit proactive in finding another keeper. And between Ramsdale and Raya, may the best man win. It's as simple as that. Either way, we get a great number 2 and a solid number 1, man. It is what it is. You lot are not winning anything anytime soon. Come on, you spuds. I don't know about that, but we've won something last week, something your team don't know about. You know, Harry Kane brought his BS over them sides, man. I respect the trolling, but stop it, man. You know Spurs is dead. No matter how rubbed Arsenal is, Spurs will always be worse. You know, come on now. Did you get 3 points this weekend? Stop it. There's levels. Who goes to Chelsea knowing that in less than a year you could be up for sale? Lavia going to Chelsea after they've signed Leslie and now Caicedo just reeks of bad player management. good options, really. You know, that guy that they signed from Rennes could go back on loan. It will take some teething problems. But if you've got Enzo Fernandez, Caicedo, Lavia, wherever he go, I don't know if he's going to go to Anfield now. That's some very good options, really. And who covers for Nketiah? We are short of a striker. We need a different type of striker. They're all the same. I'm with you in that regards. But what I would say is Arteta's going to have to hold that, really. You know, you've got Trossard, Martinelli, Jesus, Eddie Nketiah, and there's definitely someone else I'm missing out. Rice did naff all in the game where we had 75%, to be real. 1 or 2 shots, hardly a take on, no drive forward, expecting much more. Hey, sorry, people. Let me take. It seems like Siri thinks I'm talking. Still on it. Siri, I'm not speaking to you. I'm speaking to my subscribers. Don't know how that got involved.
I'm having trouble with the connection.
Please
try again in a moment.
I'm having trouble with you opening your mouth. Shut up, man. You're embarrassing me. Sorry, people. My Mac is chatting. As I was saying, to be fair, it's a bit harsh on Rice. I don't think Rice, you know, is a wealthy of a performance, but, you know, Rice, he's not really going to stand out when we're dominating possession. And that's the other aspects he needs to add into his game. It's a game when we're in the trenches and you saw that fantastic tackle on, I want to say Foden, but I believe it was Bernardo Silva. To be fair, I think Rice did okay. I don't think it's a game where anyone was rubbish, and I don't think it's a game to waffle about individual performances. You know, I think Saka was good. I think Benjamin White was good. For Martinelli put on a clinic of sorts. I think Eddie worked well, but we got the 3 points, and you take that from the first game of the season. What is with the disregard of Nketiah? If he was at any other Big Six squad, he would be heralded as the best young striker. I'm not too sure on that comment, but I can only speak for myself. I don't necessarily think Eddie Nketiah is the answer. If Jesus isn't there, you would like someone better than Jesus or dramatically better than Eddie Nketiah. I don't think he's a difference maker. I don't think he's got that stardust. But that being said, I think he's competent in Mikel Arteta's system. I think he's improved a tenfold as a player. And I like his temperament and his professionalism. And he's not shit. People move like he's not a good footballer. Like, he's decent for the squad, really. But at 24 years of age, it's now time to make progress. I just wonder for Eddie Nketiah, within the next 2 years or so, while, you know, you're loved by the manager, you've shown you can force your way in, you've shown you can do a job if Jesus is injured, you're a Haaland boy, we're doing this young squad thing. I just wonder, like, are you going to try and seek a move sooner rather than later? A bit like Matt Turner, to just play week in, week out, because there's no guarantee. For as good as Eddie Nketiah did, I know Jesus is injured, but there's no guarantee you're going to start against Crystal Palace. You know, you've seen Havertz play false nine. You've seen Eddie Nketiah get his chance. It could be Trossard next week. I don't know. But I do think Eddie Nketiah is unnecessarily disrespected. Siri, when last did Spuds win a trophy? But to be fair, they won the Tiger Cup, whatever the hell that is, isn't it? Big them up. I was happy with Rice in the game. I want more from Havertz, though, in those sort of games. But to be fair to him, that was his debut. Yeah, I think both players fitted in. It's a case of standing out. For Havertz, I know Arteta, 1 minute he says he's a midfielder, then he kind of talks up his flexibility in line with a lot of other players. But I do want Havertz personally to be defined. I don't want him to be a false nine, but for example, are you going to be a striker for this football club and you can do a job elsewhere? Are you a midfielder that can do a job elsewhere? I kind of want to see him define himself. I think the link-up plays there. I think he's an intelligent footballer. I think he makes very good forward runs. You know, he probably should have got an assist in the Forest game, but you just want to see a bit more. I think he did well against Manchester City, if I'm honest with you, but the shooting boots. And, you know, to be fair, at Chelsea, he got into right areas and has shown he's anything but clinical. I look back to the game, probably one of our most dominant performances last season away at Stamford Bridge. He probably should have set up Aubameyang. And to be fair to Arteta, you've lost 2 seasons now. Saka's got double figures in the league. Martinelli and Odegaard found their shooting boots. When Smith Rowe was fit, he got a decent return of goals and assists. Xhaka found his shooting boots, which you wouldn't last season, which you wouldn't describe Xhaka as a goal-scoring midfielder. So if Arteta's shown he could do something with these players, and Eddie Nketiah is improving now, if he could do something with these players, whatever you're doing with them, do it with Havertz, really. I remember when we were in for Caicedo for 55 million. I mean, Chelsea have probably been the team that have tried to sign him the most throughout the years of Caicedo being at Brighton, if you could even say years. Obviously, we tried to get him in January, and one wishes what would have happened. Imagine Rice and Caicedo. I mean, Rice, reports come out he's 80% fit, the same with Tomiyasu and Saliba, so there's many ways to go. But to be fair to Rice, he's learning a new system. You know, obviously, he's a 6. He's a combative number 6. That's what's got him through the door at the Emirates. He's learning a new system, and he's learning to keep that Declan Rice that got you here, but add other facets to your game, really and truly. Again, I don't know if he'll ever become a competent 8 like that, but I think he's got the capabilities to do such. So just let my man develop, man. I think he's done all right, man. Havertz looks like he's learning to play football. Chelsea ruined that youth. Still got the PTSD, man. Still got the PTSD. Rice did well, in my opinion, with a few minutes with the team and understanding what Arteta wants from him. I think he'll be a player. Also, he needs to stop this back and sideways passing. Could be a lot more adventurous in the pass with me, because again, with respect to West Ham, we're the more dominant. Like every team in the top six, teams typically are going to give you the bulk of possession. Rice is used to being in the trenches, so I agree with it, and I do think he's got it in his locker to be a bit more risky with his passing. But at the same time, as much as I agree with you, I like the fact that, you know your capabilities, pass it to someone else. And I've said it before, Rice throughout his time in the Premier League, is even back to when he scored his first goal in the Premier League against Arsenal, ironically. You go and read those post-game comments and he says, my teammates tell me I should shoot more, I need to get in the box. Even before he left West Ham, if you go on their website, he says, I need to add more goals and assists. He once said he watches Jorginho vids. I think there's a lot he could learn from his more experienced centre-mid colleagues. You're never going to be Jorginho, but there's little assets you could learn from him. And I definitely think Thomas Partey as well. Big up MB, smash the like button, as you said. In my opinion, with Havertz, I think people are being too harsh. I thought he did well against Forest. He linked play well and held the ball well and got tactical fouls. I think he could do a lot better, but I think he did okay. But unfortunately, for all players, I think personally, I think Enzo Fernandez put on a clinic yesterday. I think Levi Colwill did well. I think that Jackson guy should have scored, but he done well. But if you go on social media, they all play crap. The problem is people don't watch football anymore. They watch for agendas. They clip up 30-second clips. I understand the quote-unquote frustration. Havertz was signed for big money. You can see what Timber's bringing to the table. You can see how Declan Rice improves us. With Havertz, speaking for myself, it's more of a thing where, all right, Arteta, you've shown me you can improve players, make difficult decisions, get something out of players that, many people wouldn't. So I'll give you that luxury. But that has to work, because I said it now. And I mean, Arteta's the gaffer. He sees football to a higher standard than we see it. But I think everyone, if you was talking about summer signings, everyone could say, yeah, Timber, cool, love that. Declan Rice will love that. Havertz is, and I know Arteta. I think Arteta just loves a failed wonder kid, really, if I'm honest with you. He's not a miracle worker, but he's going to have to get a tune out of Havertz, because it doesn't appear that there's any in between. It's either going to be brilliant or terrible. In games where we're so dominant, we need to protect our defense by not pushing the whole team too far. We're too easy to counterattack. Very poor on the transition. I just hope Timber's injury isn't serious. He's been my favorite signing this season. I hope it isn't. And especially with Zinchenko's injury, Timber, I'm not going to say we don't miss Zinchenko, because he's a genius in that inverted role. But Timber's doing a job. He's aggressive. He's solid. He's intelligent. You never want to see people injured, but injuries happen at any stretch, at any moment, really. And they're not a luxury just afforded to Arsenal. We're going to have to get on with it, really. It is a bit peak that at the start of the season, Nelson's just come back from his injury. Gabriel Jesus is injured. Obviously, Zinchenko's injured. You hear Tomiyasu, Saliba, and Rice. They're kind of putting their bodies on the line. They're not 100% fit. So we'll have to see, man. We'll have to see. CDG knows ball. Have to give people a chance. Imagine starting a new job and your colleagues say you're rubbish on the first day. These times you need to learn new process. Exactly that. And I have no concerns about Declan Rice personally. It's going to work, innit? And if nothing more, if he's not amazing and a talisman and doing the madness, he's going to fit in. No one's going to care about the price tag. Timber's been a success already. No one can tell me anything, really. You can just tell it's going to bang. Havertz, I'll give you an opportunity, but at some point, we're going to have to nip that in the bud. And when you signed a man for 60+ million, we all know the connotations. He arrived with Chelsea. It has to work. He's on big money. There's no get-out clause. So I'll give everybody time, really. But as you know, football fans are very impatient. They live in hot take land. The guys that are criticized against Forest or City or before that, they'll be praised next week. And last season, we saw it. For as good as everybody played, there was times people were sick of Jorginho, of Saka, of Kiri, or of everybody, really. Football's an emotional game, so you can't really expect fans to display anything different in that regard. So honestly, man, if I'm honest with you. So yeah, I'll give Havertz a chance, but it has to work. And as I said, what are you? If you're a number 8, cool, let's lock down number 8. If you're a striker, let's lock down the striker role and then take it from there. But yeah, man. And for what it's worth, people, with Kudus, Fabrizio Romano has been speaking, and for what it's worth, he said, West Ham now open initial talks to sign Mohamed Kudus, priority target in case Paqueta leaves to join City. Positive talks on the player side. Kudus open to the move, still waiting to approach Ajax, as deal will depend on Paqueta. I mean, you'd be living in London and West Ham won the European trophy, but you're linked with Brighton, and respectfully to West Ham, because they should be doing what Brighton's doing, honestly. Would you really pick West Ham at this moment over Brighton? Brighton are in Europe. The club is, you know, from all aspects, from De Zerbi to the players to the people that make the decisions to the owners, it works a lot better. I know West Ham are starting to get a move on with the signings, brought in Edson Alvarez, got Ward-Prowse. Seems like there's more stability and more ambition with Brighton, if I'm completely honest with you. I think David Moyes has been done dirty in the transfer window. I think the fans are done dirty. I think, you know, I would definitely, as an Arsenal fan, 28 years of age, I haven't seen my team win a European trophy, but that European trophy glossed over a lot for West Ham. They won more games in that Conference League than in the Premier League. They were firmly fighting relegation. I don't understand that from Kudus, really. You know, is he going to take West Ham round the houses? Has it been made clear that the Arsenals, the Man Uniteds, the Manchester Cities, all the teams that were linked with him, they're not quite moving for him? I don't quite get that, because it seemed like Brighton were hell-bent on signing you. I don't understand if Kudus goes to West Ham over Brighton. I'm not criticising it. Big up West Ham. You know, you got Ward-Prowse, Edson Alvarez. Kudus would be a lit signing for you. I don't get that, though. I really don't. Maybe it's easier to get out of West Ham than Brighton. They were saying that. I'm not sure Arsenal would agree with the long projected Declan Rice move. And maybe if you're Chelsea with Caicedo, spare a foot for Tyrone Mings, got a big injury. We hope he gets through that sooner rather than later. Injuries are never bad. Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain's gone Besiktas. Neymar to Saudi Arabia. It's crazy, man. The market is crazy. Absolutely crazy. Big up DG. How many more signings you think we need? I think an 8 and a centre-back. Do you know, I'm open to a centre-back, but, and I'm not saying I want them to accept being a bit part player, but it's like, you know, you've got Timber and White that could play centre-half. Tomiyasu can play centre-half. Obviously, you've got Gabriel and Saliba, the primary big dogs. So if you could bring another right-sided, Kyrgios a decent player as well. Probably someone that kind of accepts their role. You kind of get minutes where you can get them sort of thing. And that's easy. That's harder. That's easier said than done. It's a lot hard to find. I think if it was up to me, 3 positions, really. If you could bring in a right winger or someone that could play out there, if you could bring in a striker that, PJ said, different to what we have, if you could bring in a centre midfielder, I think, you know, all 3 would be amazing. One of the 3 would be lit. I would probably lean towards a centre mid for myself personally. I think as much as, you know, I'm here to entertain Arteta with what he's doing with Havertz and Smith Rowe and Fabio Vieira and Odegaard is rotating 8s, and we've got Rice and Partey. I think we need one more midfielder, probably more an 8 than a 6, even though I wouldn't be against a 6. Obviously, if you could get competition / someone that could eclipse Saka, we're living. And if you could get a striker that is a bit different to what we have on the books right now, that would be lit. If one had to go, who would you rather sell, Tierney or Tomiyasu? Even though I love Tierney and he was one of the best players when he joined, I think it's time for him to leave. It's a difficult one because I think Tomiyasu can't really stay fit, so that would go against him. I think Tomiyasu is more flexible in what Arteta demands, can play at least 3 of those roles in the back in the back line. I think if you gave them a job of, I don't know who you would say is better in that. If you said both of them 90 minutes, I need you to try and lock down Mo Salah or just follow him. Tomiyasu shown he can do that at the Emirates last season. I think Tierney could. Probably Tierney because I think he's more likely to get a higher fee, if I'm honest with you. And he seems, just because he seems to be, even, you know, Tomiyasu's a peripheral figure right now, but Tierney seems to kind of be surplus to requirements. We are not going for Kudus. Ornstein would have dropped that news. We are going to be silent on our why is your comment gone? We're going to be silent on our targets because Chelsea and Liverpool love a hijack. We're looking at a midfielder in the EPL. Would love to have seen Neymar in the Premier League even at arrival. Now, I don't want to see Neymar at arrival because I don't want to have to hate him. Tommy doesn't complain either. I hear you, and I don't think he does. I don't think Tierney does, but we don't know that. Tomiyasu could always be in Arteta's ear saying, I want to play, I want to play. I want a striker in the centre mid. We'll only get one. My striker choice is Kolo Mani. My centre mid choice is Eze. 2 years left on his deal. But would Palace let him go? Zaha's cut. Elise looks like he could be walking through the doors at Stamford Bridge. Money talks, so we'd have to see. I'd rather sell Tierney for Tierney. He deserves playing time, and we might as well cash in on him. I hear that. You're not wrong at all. Let me see if there's any other talking points and stuff across this Arsenal-related stuff. Nope. We've only kept 2 clean sheets in the last 12 Premier League games. That tells you there's several improvements this football club probably needs to make in that regards, folks. Big up you lot tuned in. Keep your talking points coming. I've actually got over it early doors and time is flying. And on that, people, in relation to Lokonga, just keeping up the theme with the Lokonga, reps of Albert Sambi Lokonga are meetings with Burnley did not meet expectations on personal terms, and a loan move is now more complicated than expected. Monaco still have an interest in Lokonga, but there's nothing concrete so far. You need to cut, bro, please. I don't know what you're telling them, but you need to cut, man. You're not the guy. It's not going to happen here for you. really and truly. I still think there's a player there, not quite Yaya Toure with company. Which I thought I was deluded. Fair enough, company. You're a liar. What's your Twitch? I can get a link for you in a sec. Where is my Twitch link actually? Should be on my Twitter account. Let me scroll all the way down. There it is. There we have that. And there you have that. Company mugged us off. I don't blame him. I'd be lying as well, really. Selling for the benefit of his career. I still feel like Arsenal are suffering from a lack of energy in the second half like last season. I just think we need to learn to manage the game. You know, obviously, football's a 90-minute game. If you know you're getting tired, get back early, time when you're making runs, and just manage the game. And we've seen it several times. Was it against Wolves or someone when we was winning? And I think Zinchenko was trying skills, and you saw Ramsdale say, stop taking the P. So I just think I don't like to say the age thing because you lot have played enough times. I just think it's a bit of age, a bit of naivety, a lack of street smartness, a lack of really being able to manage the game when we're tired and cope with those demands. It's the Premier League. There's going to be times where, you know, you could be dominating the opponent for 80 minutes and then there's a little bit where they get into it. For what it's worth, apparently Chelsea are in talks with Newcastle over a loan move for Cucurella, and Chelsea are pushing for an obligation. We haven't quite heard that aggressive links where Tierney's concerned. So it seems like maybe Tierney might not be going to Newcastle, but who knows? They might. Football's weird. They might get both. Seems like a slow news day. And it does appear, in my opinion, that Arsenal are just probably focusing more on outgoings at the moment. I don't think we need to sell before we can buy. I just think that was the plan. Get the contract sorted, which we done. Bring in the 3 men that we brought in. You know, react to Matt Turner wanting to leave and bring in Raya, so that now turns to 4 in Timber, Havertz, Rice, and David Raya. Did I say it? Yeah. Anyways, and now I think we're just focusing on trying to get some outgoings. You know, I think it all depends. Arsenal's asking price might stop them from getting what they want for Tierney, but I don't think Tierney will be short of offers, really. And I do like the fact that Arsenal, to a degree, we're sticking to our guns. We're not just selling people for anything. Obviously, we didn't make that much money on Matt Turner or Trusty, but it's not just, it seemed like we just accepted anything in previous years. So I just think we're dedicating it towards that. And clearly, you know, it's easier said than done. A lot of clubs, you look at the Spurs lot down the road, they got a whole heap of players on their books. I don't know if everyone will get a permanent move, but the Lokongas, the Cedrics, the Tavareses, you know, the Pepes, we need those futures sorted. I don't think we, in theory, want to sell Balogun or Tierney, but for one reason or another, those are players that could bring significant money into the club, and it appears their days are numbered. When we do that, or the bulk of that, maybe we'll bring a next one in, really. So I have to see. Apparently, Elise favours a return to Chelsea over moving to City. Maybe, you know, he wants to stay in London. Obviously, his brother's there, and he's technically an ex-Chelsea boy. Chelsea are spending a whole heap of money since Todd Burhe's arrived. Didn't smash the like button if you haven't. Apparently, that Gift Orban guy is joining Tottenham. I could be wrong, but that guy said he won't join Arsenal because they don't like to win trophies, but you join Spurs. But hey, we got to give him hell. We've got to give him hell. Of course, Arsenal's the best team in the world, but you can keep your money. You don't have to do that. Do you think that if Newcastle beat City, they'll get into the fight for the Premier League? I don't know, man. Really, we need to see after the first 10 or so games, but beating Manchester City is a good look for anyone. Last few weeks of the window going to be a mazza. Probably, hopefully for Arsenal. How can company not want Yaya Toure back? He finessed us with that one. We finessed ourselves, really. So we can't really complain. DG, would you take Sergio Ramos? He's a free agent, also a leader, and someone who knows how to be in the trenches. Plus, I think he'll be a good mentor for Saliba and Gabriel. In theory, bringing in Sergio Ramos, why wouldn't you? But it seems like he can barely stay fit. He's going to want big money, and he could be a good leader in the dressing room. But, you know, I'm not being funny, and I'm not saying he would do this. But Sergio Ramos has been around a lot of big boy managers. He might look at Arteta like, who's this guy? So I'm not too sure on that, really. And the man can't stay fit. I mean, who wouldn't be against Sergio Ramos? Who wouldn't want Sergio Ramos in theory? But when you consider everything, it's a bit like bringing in Neymar on ability. And even with everything, if it's up to me, I'd still let Neymar sign for Arsenal. But if it's just on ability and what you could do, great. But the wages, the fee, the knock-on effect that might have for other contracts and other players, the dressing room stuff, even though I don't like to do that, it means it's a myth. There's plenty of players like that. It's just like with ultimately Man United. You know Ronaldo's a quality player, whether he's the same Ronaldo or not. But what led to his demise at Man United, you could see that was going to happen. Bro, I'm not on that project Havertz. That boy's got till December, and that's generous. He's going to have to do a madness in it, really. Ramos would be a massive risk considering everything about him. Also, Neymar is kind of famous that's at this point for being a cancer to the dressing room. I think Sambi has a good season in the French league. Go and do that. Tell him to cut and go do that. Simple as that. Go and do that. Go and show us that. Go and show us that. I do think there's a player in Lokonga, but I can't see it at this moment in time. I don't, some people are saying play him as an 8. I'm sorry, but Lokonga at this moment in time could never be an 8 for this football club. Look at all the midfielders we've seen, and man want to see Lokonga. He's too immature and probably a bit too shy and doesn't have the discipline to play as a lone 6. And I do, as much as I think there's a player in there, sometimes you have to cut your losses. We got it wrong, keep it moving. Ramos stinks of the Saudi league, especially, and free that and that wage fee would be lit. I mean, let him go and do that, man. But to be fair, if you want to bring in players, big players, they're going to have big personalities, really. At some point, we're going to have to do something in that regard. So we're going to have to see, really. But Neymar's a myth at Arsenal. Big shocked with Kudus allegedly going to West Ham. Big up West Ham, not doubting it at all. But, you can't play hardball and have cold feet over Brighton and then go sign for West Ham. Like, the two clubs look a world apart at this moment in time. Sambi should have gone to the French league instead of Arsenal. Should have gone to Monaco, Leo, and not us. To be fair to you, him better yet. Why would you turn down Arsenal? Arsenal come and sign for you. For me, Lokonga, not so much recently, but he does too much talking. He does a lot of talking as to why he shouldn't be in the Belgian team, and he does a lot of talking in interviews. Let your feet do the talking. And we all saw in the All or Nothing, the mentality difference, pardon me, between him and Eddie and Ketty, and no one owes you anything. Lokonga does come around as someone that feels sorry for themselves a lot, someone that thinks they kind of owed something. You owed nothing. Go and give Arteta the reason to play you. And I remember when we signed Lokonga in pre-season, he looked decent. He looked really confident. He seems like he's one of those volatile confidence players, really. He's shown he's not levels, unfortunately. And Sorelli, do you think we should have signed Maddison? I don't think we need to sign Maddison, but he's a quality player and he's already shown that at Spurs. I think he's vice captain or one of the part of the leadership group things. Big up the Hong Kong Gooners as well, man. And appreciative to you lot, because you lot on the Asian side of things, the time zones are very different. You lot's day must be really finished. I've never really seen a big deal with Lokonga. He's never stepped up in the Premier League, and he needs to do that to break into a level of squad like Arsenal's. You said it there. And there's no shame in that. Just got it wrong. I just think he needs to go somewhere and settle down roots. Just keep it moving, really and truly. And again, I would love for Lokonga to look decent, if I was completely honest with you, just because we could save money. If he was a quality centre mid, I might be out. You heard me just say earlier, I would love to sign a central midfielder. I might be looking at it a lot differently. If Kudus chooses West Ham over Brighton, he has made the wrong decision. You don't know what David Moyes or West Ham have told him. You don't know, really. He might feel he fits in a bit tactically better. For me, Brighton are a lot more healthier than West Ham. They finish higher than them. They're having more of a competitive squad. Yes, they've let a bunch of players go in the last 2 years, but they always find them. And Brighton are probably getting to that point where we're going to hold on to some players now. We're not just developing players for the sake of it. West Ham have let their captain go and all of those sort of things. So it doesn't really make sense. And respectfully to David Moyes, because he's a legend in the Premier League. He's been around. If I was a player, and I don't know David Moyes might be the Scottish Pep Guardiola, but realistically, who are you going to learn more tactically, individually and collectively from? Roberto De Zerbi, who's shown it at Sassuolo as well, or David Moyes? Who's more likely to improve you individually as a player with the greatest respect to David Moyes? I think it would be the boys at Brighton. So I'd go with that, man. West Ham offers more wages than Brighton. They had Paqueta. Having Kudus is not far-fetched. It's true, and probably the London aspect. Lokonga always played, probably went through youth teams easily. Eddie got binned by Chelsea, so he understands the struggle. That's a good point. And I just don't think Lokonga grabbed his opportunity. Simple as that. And he went to Crystal Palace. He started off well, and he found himself in familiar surroundings, sitting on the bench. So you're doing that. There's two teams now. Fair enough. Vieira left, then Roy Hodgson came in. But at crunch time, what happened there? I remember the game Sambi had for Palace against Liverpool looked really good, but was in a double pivot, which is a system we don't really utilize. Boy, in your opinion, ideally, which transfer improves us right now? See, the signings I want, I don't think, Caicedo would have been lit. I don't think we can go and grab the players I want to go and grab, really. So I can't really answer that. I think Kareem Adeyemi would be great for the squad. I know he hasn't set the world alight at Dortmund, but that's a man who can play up front and on the right. Improves us immediately. I'm not too sure of the starting 11. Lokonga has had more opportunities than most players get and has dropped the ball almost every single time. I don't think that's truly fair, but I think you've had more than enough opportunities. And as we know with Mikel Arteta, we went over the press conference and he kind of said it about Eddie and Nketiah. It's like the way he was training is like, manager, you're blind. And I don't know. Lokonga might be the best man in training or the worst man. But not grabbing your opportunities is one thing. And clearly you're not doing enough in training to make Arteta want to gamble with starting you really and truly. Or maybe you are or you're not. You know, the very fact is he's played 34 times in the Premier League, not for Arsenal though. You know, that's across the 2 loans. He played 9 times for Crystal Palace, which on loan weren't the best. He's played 39 times for Arsenal. I'm trying to actually see how many starts have you actually... Why is it showing it like this? I'm actually on transfer mark. I'm trying to see how many starts he had. So he joined us in 21-22. And to be fair to Lokonga, he has always been thrown in at the deep end, innit? Like, I remember he should have never played really at Old Trafford as a lone sort of midfield body, but he played alone in midfield last season at Old Trafford. Obviously, everyone that was thrown in against Chelsea and Brentford kind of got done dirty. Not taking his opportunities, really. Not taking them. He did well against... I swear there was a game he played in midfield with Ainsley Maitland-Niles. He did well. To be fair, he's played a lot more than I thought, so you are right. You know, you're all right. If I share my screen, the season, like Lokonga's first year, obviously would give everybody a tax for Brighton because it was Brentford, sorry, because it was collapsed. But he got 90 against Brentford, 90 against Chelsea, 62 odd minutes against Norwich, 29 minutes against Burnley, not really anything against Spurs, got 90 minutes against Brighton. And I remember that game. That was welcome to the Premier League from Brighton for Lokonga and Tomiyasu. 45 minutes against Palace, 73 against Aston Villa, 90 against Leicester, 90 against Watford. There is a period he played all right in these games. Lokonga played in the 4-0, 53 minutes in the 4-0 defeat to Liverpool. Myth played in the 2-0 victory against Newcastle. Then he found himself on the bench, and yeah, you ain't really been in ever since. And obviously the crunch time periods where you've thrown in, you let us down. And that's probably the end of Lokonga's future. Obviously, everyone was crap against Nottingham Forest. The next season, which was obviously the season that has just gone, smash the like button if you haven't, folks. Rightly so, he's on the bench, really. You know, Xhaka, Partey, it was working. You're not getting near them. And then obviously, come January, he cut out on loan. And he did all right in his... I think he did okay in the 18 minutes against Man United. He actually I think he started life to Crystal Palace well, a bit like at Arsenal. But then come the end of it, as you can see there. So it's a myth for Lokonga, man. And it's okay. I'm surprised no team has took Nuno Tavares off our hands. I think he could definitely offer something to a team that plays wing backs. I think so as well. But, you know, maybe there's offers that Tavares hasn't seen as attractive. Maybe Arsenal are playing hardball over the asking price. Maybe if you really believe some reports, he wants to stay in the Prem. Apparently, he's got interest from Premier League clubs, Italian clubs, and Bundesliga clubs. I think the game against Leicester, when Ramsdale made that save, he was decent. You would think West Ham would take Holding. These man had Dawson at the back at one point. They could be getting Maguire still. You know, all right. No one wants Rob Holding, do they? I mean, Rob Holding's a master at just forget. You know, you forget Rob Holding's at the club. He knows how to disappear. If I'm Rob Holding, I'm just keeping my head down for a next. All you gotta do is keep your head down, like Cedric, for the next couple of weeks. Make sure the manager don't hear you in the team briefings and stuff, and you'll find your way surviving at Arsenal. But Rob Holding needs to cut. But for him, is he eager to force a move? You've probably got a decent amount of time left at Arsenal. You're comfortable. The manager does like you. You're comfortable here. Is he going to force the ball out? I believe on one hand, yes, because, you know, a football career is short. There must be nothing like starting games and playing games in the Premier League. Go and do that. Strange question, but who had the better Arsenal career, Denilson or Lokonga? Well, Denilson at this moment in time, the very fact it's been years, he's still talking about him. Everyone forgets Lokonga's at the club. Enzo Fernandez a baller, and with Caicedo, he's going to play slightly further forward. He's going to be lit. Holding will be here for a while. He's there for the homegrown quota. That's true. But now you've got Declan Rice. You've still got Ramsdale. David Raya has been here since 15, 16 years of age. So despite being a Spanish international, I don't know if he still qualifies. You know, who else you got? You got Saka, you got Eddie, you got Reece Nelson, you got Emil Smith-Rowe. I'm definitely missing out someone as well. You're all right. You probably do need to keep him for that. But I feel like I'm missing someone out. Probably could stay for that. Yeah, I said right. It feels like I'm missing someone. I thought Holding worked in the marketing department. Boy, Rob Holding needs to do that. Big up Frimpong. When Frimpong's driving that go-kart around London, Coley, Holding, you're the content creator now. That's you. You need to go to schools. You need to do the charity work. That is you. You need to be, that is your stuff. You need to get the gaffer his coffee. Football, forget about that. Balogun might not be here. Benjamin White, again, yeah. Koza Juby's young. I'm trying not to include them because they don't need to be listed, but probably don't need to keep Holding that much then. Really, I'd keep Holding if he's happy to have minimal minutes, which seems to be the case. I hear that. and I'm not gonna die if Holding doesn't leave, but like you need to cut in it, because worst case scenario, I don't want to be in a scenario where you're relying on Holding. I do think unnecessarily Rob Holding was public enemy number one. I personally think it's a cop out to just blame Holding coming into the team for why we dropped the ball. You know, yes, the system suffered, but in those games, Rob Holding weren't the worst player. And if we're honest, even if he was, there was other aspects of them games that we could control. And as much as I praise Arteta for assembling this system, assembling this squad, if we're in a position where we're relying on Rob Holding or respectfully El Nene, which wasn't the case, which led to our demise last season, and before that, the season before, we missed out on top four. Whose fault is that? Holding not picking himself, really. I wouldn't let Holding go, honestly. He's a solid defender. He fits the English registration, and there aren't that many good backup defenders willing to sit on the bench. I mean, it's a bit like City. You find yourself on the bench. I don't think Laporte wants to sit on the bench, but you need to find yourself on that if you're not there, really. I hear you, and you're not wrong, but I don't think that's a reason to keep Holding, really and truly. I wouldn't exactly describe Holding as solid. I think he's better when it's kind of chaotic defending. I don't think he's got the glee to, you know, what Arteta wants in terms of, you know, picking up space on the ball, the passing, driving forward and all of that. You know, and to be honest with you, Rob Holding's best stages at Arsenal have been in the back three. Now, there's obviously good defenders that can play in the back three, but if a gaffer is deploying the back three, he's either not convinced on individually the capabilities of his centre backs, or he's not convinced on his club's defending. To be fair to him, I always think with Rob Holding, I don't think he would have been a world beater, but I did think he was close to an England cap when he got that injury, which probably set him back. I think it was against Man United at Old Trafford. He had a little collision with Rashford. I think that was a turning point for Rob Holding, if I'm honest with you. I don't think Rob Holding's good backup. I can't lie to you. I think I like Holding. I think he's a solid guy, honest individual, but meaty, man. Unfortunately, it's meaty. Where we want to go, like, I'm not here. Not everyone can be part of this journey. Rob Holding can leave with his head held high. I wouldn't describe him as a cult hero, but at the end of the day, you shut up Douglas Costa. You won an FA Cup. You've done your thing. You know, I don't think anyone can question your commitment levels and things. Signed for $2 million. You've led your course. You fulfilled your service. Arsenal, Sheffield United's over there. Holding, Saudi Arabia's over them sides as well. Cut. Sterling out jumped him. You see what I'm saying? Don't remind me of that. Like, there's no need for Rob Holding. Like, respectfully, you know, obviously, God forbid, if bodies are dropping, we're going to need to use what we have. But, you know, if I look at Arsenal's centre-back options, Benjamin White and Timber are fullbacks in this current system. They're playing centre-half ahead of you already. That's two men. Kyrgios playing ahead of you for me. Tomiyasu's playing ahead of you for me. Gabriel and Saliba, it needs to be no talking. If worse comes to worse, and I wouldn't want to remove Declan Rice from midfield, but there's also the option of worse comes to worse of Declan Rice being deployed as a centre-back. There's no need for Rob Holding. If you're happy to sit on the bench, if Arteta wants to keep you around and that, cool. DG, I can't lie, I think we fumbled the bag not getting Isaac. It would have been lit, man. It would have been lit. Made Lukaku look like an elite striker. To be fair with you, Holding's a tug. I think you took Holding or Pablo Mari? Holding's better than Pablo Mari. That is one guy I'll never forgive. Big up Arteta, but we missed with that. And I can't believe some Arsenal fans say he's the best centre-back at the club. I've never seen someone play hardly any minutes and get gassed the way Pablo Mari was. You rate guys where Lukaku's sprinting on goal and he's playing with his head. Me, the guy. Brighton have pulled out the race for Kudus for where it is, and it seems like West Ham have a free hit. As much as I think Kudus is a decent player, like, for all the talk, Chelsea haven't officially offered a bid at this moment in time. Neither of Arsenal, neither of United. Is there something that the inner footballing world are concerned about with Kudus that many people ain't? I think he had a good World Cup, but who knows, man? Who knows? I think we just need a backup right wing, and I'd be satisfied with the squad. I know Fabio Vieira can play there, but he doesn't offer the same skill set Saka does. I'm with that, and you're never going to see the best Fabio Vieira out there. The man's an 8 and a 10 in that. Marie was rubbish, man, but big him up. Shout out to him. Shout out to Monza for buying him permanently as well. What's your opinion on Jackson? Man's a beast. I like him a lot. Should have scored. I like him a lot. I don't want to praise strikers for working hard and things, but I think Chelsea got a decent player in that regards. I think he's a very decent player. He's definitely better than the other black youth they signed. What's his name? Fufana. Don't know what happened to that Fufana. He didn't even get a chance, really. Holding and Marie partnership was wild. We was in the trenches. To be fair, DG, we finished 8th twice and we were starving for good players. We rated players like Marie and Lichtsteiner. I don't know who rated Lichtsteiner, and I understand it, but speak for yourself. These are meaty guys. Like, Marie was meaty. Guys were gassing him because he was left-footed. He was meaty. People tried to rationalize William. That was meaty. We was not getting out of the hood with that. Pablo Marie was Bandulu, man. We're buying youths in the Brazilian league and he's like almost 30. Arsenal, DG, we need Kudus and Barella. Wouldn't say need, but if I think we'd more need Barella than Kudus, if I was honest. Nick Steiner was quality like 4 years before Arsenal signed him, more like 20. I did like his professionalism, but that's a hype. There's no winger coming. Fabio's going to be on the wings. We get a striker that can play across the front line. Right wing is covered. No winger is coming in. I mean, if you sign a striker who can't, Jesus can play on the right, to be fair. Flo needs to be integrated to the team so that we will not short more goals out before number 5 Jay's coming back. Yeah, I don't quite understand what you said there, but big you up nonetheless, man. William sold us a jit. Told you, man. William was an agent. Stop signing Chelsea brothers. You can get the Eddie and Nketiahs that get released and that, but stop buying these Chelsea guys. Havertz, I got all the faith in the world in you. So, yeah, let's see what you bring to the table, man. Can't lie. Obviously, in hindsight, I'll say I was wrong, but if you offered me at the time Kovacic or Havertz, I know they're completely different midfielders, I would have wanted the Kovacic thing. Havertz, it needs to work. If it don't, peak. Happy 50th to JJ Okocha. What do you think of us playing purely right footers in our back line? Don't think it's that deep. If you're good enough and comfortable enough, you could do it. Same way with left footers. Don't think it's that deep. Obviously, it can kill the build-up play, but I think it's calm. You know, Tomiyasu isn't the most techie of footballers in Arsenal's team, but when you listen to Arteta's press conferences, he always talks about his versatility and his ball-footedness. William found his level at Fulham. William just came for the bag, man. And to be fair, he joined at a toxic time. As much as I rate the players Arteta signed, he has to, you know, everyone's made bad signings, even Wenger and Alex Ferguson. You know, Ferguson signed Bebe for all of his stuff. Arteta has to hold Willian, that was dead. Cedric, that was dead. You know, Aubameyang, you gave him a new deal and then ripped it up. Pablo Marie, that was dead. Yeah, Crystal Palace on a Monday, 21st of August. Forgive me if I'm wrong. In fact, I could be capping. I'm sure it's the 21st. Let me actually make sure. I'm sure. Yeah, 21st of August, 8 p.m. So we'll be live at 7 p.m. to do a watch along for that. We need to get 9 points in August. We've got, 6 more up for grabs. Crystal Palace, difficult test. Fulham at home, difficult test. Fulham on the 26th of August. Need to get 3 points. It's as simple as that. Because we start September's a bit mad still. Man United kicking it off. Then there's the international break. Then you got Everton away, which was our worst performance last season for me. Then you've got the North London derby. You can say what you want about Spurs with no Harry Kane and the new manager. Still a massive game. Boy, and then we end September with Bournemouth. So we're going to need to be on top form. Oh, October. City and then Chelsea away. I'm kind of scared to go play Chelsea. Danny Ceballos was dead as well. Danny Ceballos didn't work, but I wouldn't say he was dead, but it didn't work. But to be fair, pardon me, and obviously Arteta has to take responsibility for Nuno Tavares and Lokonga, but I think the success rate has been a lot better, wasn't it? Did Arteta bring in Partey? I can't remember, but you brought in Partey, you kept Xhaka, you knew when to reintegrate Saliba, you knew when to give Martinelli proper football, you integrated Smith Rowe. Obviously, Odegaard's been a hit. Not everyone was convinced on that. Benjamin White's been a hit. Say what you want. Ramsdale the same. Zinni's been that as well. Kane is jinxed. He'll end up winning stuff. And I think people are a bit harsh on Arteta because he's shown that in the last 2 weeks, he's gambled. He's played Partey, quote unquote, right back, started Havertz and played the system a bit differently against City and also gambled towards the end of the game. People ask for Arteta to be more flexible, to be more risky. He's done that in the last 2 weeks. Sometimes it's going to work. Sometimes it's an L. Surely Trossard can play right wing. Of course he can. If we don't fit this system and come up with a new strategy, then this season won't be what we think it could be. We shall see. We just look slow. It's early doors, and to be fair, the system isn't exactly the same as it was. If we get a result at City away, I think this could be the season. Ifs. We finally won a battle against City, but it was at Wembley where, let's be honest, yes, it's a cup final, but in the grand scheme of things, it don't really mean anything. And City haven't been performing in the Community Shield. We've been better against City in recent years, but we've lost. The last 2 games at the Emirates in the last 2 seasons have been quite close, but we lost. Etihad, we was terrible. We lost. Need to show you can beat them. As great as we were against the top 6 teams last season, definitely in recent years, still didn't win at Old Trafford. Still didn't win at the Etihad. Yes, we got a point against Anfield, but it feels like a point gained and also 2 points dropped. Still didn't win there. For Arsenal, we need to show we can go to Etihad, to go to Old Trafford, to go to Brighton again and get results. To go to Everton away, which isn't a nice place. It's them kind of games there where we need to do a madness. Experimenting must stop. The season's already started. Our backline should be firm. Less goal must be conceded. That's true, but you have to find a balance of when to experiment and when not to. So I agree and disagree. I mean, if I don't know if it's our season. I personally think we need to keep our feet on the ground. Smash the like button if you haven't, folks, and see where it takes us. If I'm completely honest with you, who's your favourites for the Champions League? I think it could be anyone's this year. I hope so. And I know Real Madrid got a bag of injuries, but the Madrids, the Munichs, even though Bayern never underperformed, City, obviously they've done the treble. These lot have the luxury of being the better teams, really, in the competition. Who knows? Hopefully it could be our year. We was lucky at Anfield. In the second half, very lucky. Ramsdale put on a clinic. Salah was nice enough to miss a penalty. But this is the thing. You have to kill teams. Because I know Liverpool and Nottingham Forest are very different. But there's almost a lot of similarities with how we played at Anfield last year and the game in the Premier League that's just gone. I think next season is the season for Arsenal. This year might be a little too soon. Listen, I just want to see consistent improvement. Anything that becomes a talking point as the result of hard work and ultimately winning games. Arsenal can't control that. We can't control that, but we can discuss that right now. I need to see 9 points. Come the end of August, 9 points. All we need to do, as I say every year, right now, it's just about getting to December, still in and amongst the mix of whatever talking points you lot are saying. From the end of December, early Jan, make it to March. From March, make it to April. Once you get into May, don't crumble. It's as simple as that. There doesn't appear to be any news at this moment in time, or better yet, any light shedded on Timber's injury. So I guess we're all waiting. As I always say, hope for the best, expect the worst. We hope it's nothing serious, but injuries happen. It's not a luxury just exclusive to Arsenal. It does suck a bit that, Timber's picked up a knock now. Declan Rice, Saliba, and Tomiyasu aren't 100% fit. Zinchenko, same goes for Nelson. Zinchenko, Jesus, Timber. There's definitely one more injured. Do you think Ramsdale will be number one by the end of the season? Hopefully, in a sense that, this is your spot to lose. Don't lose it now. I think you're unfortunate not to get a clean sheet against Nottingham Forest. I don't think you deserve to concede. But if Raya takes his place, take your place. Honestly, I don't have a clue, man. Who has a clue? Doesn't appear to be a clue, man. We'll just have to see and may the best man win. As you know, it's all about ultimately your performances on the weekend, or for us in the Champions League will make the difference, but it's about how you train. If Bayern don't make the semis, they should be vexed because their squad is mad. For me, I need to see as a minimum last 16 for Arsenal Football Club, and then we take it from there. Don't get twisted. If you play a lower Champions League opposition and you got in the last 16, that's disappointing. But God forbid if you was to buck Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, them kind of clubs, and you went out in the last 16, hold my hands up. But I want to get to the knockout stages. With that being said, though, people, appreciate you lot's talking points, questions, smashing the like button, all of that. I'm going to go and get some lunch. Again, check out the tactical video if you want more of my thoughts in relation to Arsenal against Nottingham Forest, people, where I kind of spoke about Thomas Partey. As you can see, it started to play there. And I'll be back before you know it. Last question. Do you start Trossard over Eddie against Palace? Who knows? Arteta keeps us guessing, but I did feel against Manchester City, whoever started that game, I felt you deserved to start against Forest. And I believe whoever started against Forest done well. I think Eddie did well. His goal's one thing, but he worked well. I probably would deploy Eddie Nketiah up front against Crystal Palace, but you can't rule out Arteta. He's shown he'll make changes. But on that note, you lot stay blessed, stay safe. One love. I'm out.
You always use that active red light, defenders. I think it's like. You always use that active red light, defenders. I think it's like. Time.